What is happening, bitches? So, I wanted to do this video, another Car Chronicles, because people running their mouth after I did a video where I said Jason Statham was Australian. Now, they were like, oh, I can't believe, you don't know that he's not Australian. He's from England, he's British, or whatever. That accent and our accent don't sound alike. This accent and that accent sound nothing alike. And there are people like, I hate when people say that Australian accent and whatever accent, it was a certain accent y'all were talking about, sound the same. So apparently it happens enough to the point where it's irritating you, right? But wouldn't you also think it's happening enough to the point where there are people that actually believe that those accents are the same, or at least they sound familiar enough for them to mix them up? Let me give you a couple examples of some things. When I first started hanging out at the Franklin Mills Mall in Pennsylvania, at this point in time in New Jersey, there weren't a lot of Asians there. But there were in Philly, of course, Chinatown and what have you. So I started seeing a lot of Asians. I was like, oh my God, why? I can't tell them apart. They all look alike. I mean, I sound like a fucking racist in my head, but not saying, yeah, they all fucking look like, no, like that. I was just like, wow, I can't believe how much they look alike, okay? But knowing that there were different Asians, because, well, over here, in America, we get shit for calling all Asians Chinese, because they ain't all Chinese. But there were different Asians, but I would think they were all the same. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's a point, right? Because I'm not familiar with them. Okay? Another thing. When I worked and I waited tables at Cracker Barrel for a few years, I remember that there were a lot of old white folks that go to Cracker Barrel. A lot, okay? Especially in the morning for breakfast or what have you. And I remember, never forget this, one guy left his wallet, old white man left his wallet at my table. And Cracker Barrel has a store, old country store attached to it, so you can buy things when you leave. Well, I went out to find him and give him his wallet, and there was nothing but old white folks out there, and I didn't know who the fuck he was. Although I waited on him for about an hour, I should have recognized him. He wasn't familiar to me. Old white people weren't familiar to me. Therefore, I couldn't notice the distinct differences. I had a general broad stroke view. Here's another example. When white people come to my channel and they want to tell me who I look like, I've noticed I look like every professional athlete out there, along with every black actor and every black comedian. I look like everybody, okay? When black people tell me I look like someone, it's only a couple of guys that they name because they are familiar with me. They know who I really look like. But white people and other races, they are looking at me with that broad brush. They're painting that resemblance with a broad stroke. So all of a sudden, I look like every black guy that I slightly resemble. You get that? Slightly resemble. So because those two, so the point I'm trying to make is because those two accents sound slightly alike to me, and I'm not familiar with it, that's the reason why I thought he was Australian. So I am so sorry, English and British people, that I'm not familiar with where Jason Statham comes from and the accents that come out of your country. I apologize for not knowing that he was not Australian, you wankers, and that he was actually British or English or UK and or something, all right? Some of them bitches. Post your comments down below. I'm sure I have cleared it up now that when you are not familiar to something, whether it be a sound or a people or whatever it is, that you may group them all together and be mistaken at some point. Tyrone Magnus does not look like every fucking football player out there. But to someone who's not really familiar with being around black people constantly, you're going to think that I look like everybody that I slightly... Hey, Tyrone's eyes are kind of like... Hey, yeah, he looked like him. No, I don't look like him. We just have a slight resemblance. All right, some bitches. Done with this Car Chronicles. 1 million subscribers. Woo!